Hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's special edition episode of the Xbox Factor podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Boomstick XL, and we are here today to celebrate and support our amazing community member known as IDizzy81. He is currently battling the big C, and he has had a tough time, but like a true prize fighter, he is sticking it out to make sure that even if he doesn't get the KO, he will get the decision in the end. And of course, in order to put such an amazing show together, I needed to surround myself, I should say, with a team that is anyone would call them a stacked deck. Now, just real quick, I'm going to get into the intros, and we're going to get that out of the way, and we're going to get into exactly how this whole thing transpired. And first up, you know him as the voice of the Iron Lord, someone that I consider a brother from another mother, and he's also one of the best writers that I know when it comes to writing someone's intro. In fact, he has schooled your boy Boom on how to have it done. Please welcome tonight's a very special panel member, Lord Cognito.
Welcome. Introducing. How we doing, guys, man? This is fantastic. I'm very proud of everyone here. You know, what we're doing. I think this is extremely special. Had to be a part of it. Boom, you're a perfect pick to actually host. And yeah, man, we want to talk about something that's really going on in the community. And obviously this is for Dizzy and what's going on in gaming, but I'm super pumped to be here. Couldn't wait for this day. And man, we're going to talk about some real serious topics, but also in a positive manner, have some fun as well.
Yes, we absolutely are. And you know what? I don't want this to get out of control because obviously we're hoping that the super chats come in. I am going to be adding iDizzy's family's PayPal me link in the chat throughout the show. If you want to donate directly to him, you can do that way. And I like to thank War, who drops an outstanding $31 super chat. And just remember, folks, every dollar, every cent that we get tonight is being donated to iDizzy and his beautiful family. So just keep that in mind as you come in with the donations. And next up, you know him as one of the most generous human beings. But besides that, his blocking skills are legendary, and he will not mute you, but completely put you out. Please welcome Wilmy Hood.
Oh, thank you, Boom. And every time that intro gets a little more interesting. Glad to be here. Me and Rand actually have been together in a while on a podcast, and back with Cog and back with Boom. And we're doing this for a really great cause, a really great guy. Cancer, man, affects a lot of people.
Yeah. And
I do mean a lot of people. I think a vast majority of the world's population has to deal with it at some point. So I can't think of anything better to do this for and for a better person. So let's get to it.
Well, listen, continuing with, of course, 2 new super chats that just came in. I'd like to thank Aaron JF94 for his very generous $5 super chat. And he says, lots of love. And followed by that is Plantanog1 with the $5 super chat. He says, my first super chat. Well, thank you, dude. We greatly appreciate your absolutely outstanding generosity. Now, continuing down the line, you know him as the man with a million. And I'm not just talking about gamer score. He probably has 1 million games in about 20 hard drives. He is one of the Xbox community's finest. He is the showrunner of the Xbox 2 podcast on Wednesdays with Jez Corden. Please welcome to the show, Randall Thor 19.
What's going on, everybody? I'm glad to be here for Dizzy and talk about the topics. Although, boom, that topic list, I think it took me like 2 hours to read.
I know.
the
I'm
other
sorry.
day.
I apologize for that.
But
welcome to the Xbox Factor.
Yeah, we're here. Boom's been wanting me to come back on for a while, and my schedule's a little weird at times. So I'm happy to be here for Dizzy talking Xbox, and I'm really excited by all the support. We have a great community here.
Yes.
Second to none, and all the love and support I can see is flowing in from generous people on super chats and everything. So keep it up, guys. You're awesome.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. Super, super appreciate it. And of course, listen, Cognito, if you wouldn't mind, would you get the next couple of super chats?
Oh wow, we've got a bunch that have gone on. Where should I start at? We did a
Yes, Elemental PO is next.
All right, Elemental PO with the $50 super chat. Always enjoy the Lord's podcast and your shows, Boom. No laughing matter. Salute. And then we have the lady of the realm, Josette Rivera. $50 super chat. Hello, everyone. Just wanted to pop in and show my love and support. This is an amazing community, and you are all awesome. Completely agree with that. And then we have Mocha Smiley, $10 super chat. In our thoughts and prayers, Dizzy. That's a salute right there. This is really cool stuff. And of course, we got Heated Heavy 505, $10 super chat. F cancer. I'm with that.
Yes,
I'm about that.
We're about that life, definitely. And of course, you know what? Last and in no way least, he is one of my co-hosts for the Xbox Factor podcast. He may be young in years, but my God, does he have an old soul? Not only is he one of the most responsible content creators I know, his work in dealing with and helping the community is second to none. Please welcome Semi Games.
Well, thank you so much. I don't know about responsible, but, but I'm super happy to be here. Boom. This podcast definitely means a lot, and it's definitely for an amazing cause. So I'm just super happy to be a part of it. So thanks.
We are definitely glad to have you. And Matt Bradley drops a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for being here, Matt. And of course, thank you for your generosity. Now, getting back to why we're here. Now, obviously, like Wilmy was saying, I don't think you can come across someone who hasn't been touched by the big C in one way or another, whether that be a family member, whether that be a close friend, a relative, a friend of a friend, someone you haven't seen in 20 years. But it is a horrible disease, and it's one that has a real tough time beating. But IDizzy is a champion of justice, and he is fighting every day to make sure that he's here. So listen, I want to hand it over to Lord Cognito, who knows Dizzy personally, and you know a bit of his story. Why don't you share that with us and, of course, the rest of the community that are dropping super chats like it's going out of style?
Yeah, man, this is a big day, and I want to start off just real briefly. From the beginning, obviously with Iron Law Podcast getting started, for the last couple 5-6 years, and just kind of getting our feet wet in the podcast game. And I'll never forget, Dizzy had reached out to me, and we knew some mutual friends through gaming. Shout out to Anchorman, shout out to a couple people that we crossed paths with in game. And he's always been cordial, always been respectful. And he always told me, he was like, look, man, I like what you guys are doing. It's positive, and I want to support. And at the time, he had his own thing going on as far as the website stuff. And then we kind of started working together. And during that period, I got a chance to really know the man, so to speak. Right. And just really cool, really humble, funny, very passionate, very opinionated. We clash heads, but it's always in good fun, that kind of stuff. And we just kept that relationship going throughout the years. So obviously when we started to do our own thing in lordsgaming.net, and it was only right that I partnered with my brother Dizzy. So as that's going on, the news he broke the news to me kind of subtly, and basically say, hey man, you may need to look into getting another editor-in-chief. So at that point, I knew things were a bit serious. I knew he was going through something cancer-wise. He had battled it before and beat it, and apparently it had returned. So I said, look, brother, we are with you. Whatever you need, we got you, and we started to shuffle things around. So obviously speeding up to, where we are now, we've seen the article. I'm pretty sure everyone has seen it on lordsofgaming.net,
Right.
Gaming with Cancer, my personal story. And, he asked me, he's like, Cog, I really want your opinion. Should I put this out? Should I do this? And mind you, I talk to Dizzy very frequently, like a lot during the night, I guess when he's going through his treatments and things of that nature, keep his spirits up and things like that. So I said, sure, absolutely. I'll take a look at it. So I took a look at it, and I'm not gonna lie to y'all, like when it got to those final paragraphs,
It was very tough to finish reading, but it was one of the best articles I think I've ever read.
Yeah, the subheading is "So What Now?" And if you haven't read it, I implore you guys to read it. It is a very powerful thing. Obviously, I've had family members and that have gone through it. My mom had gone through it, and luckily hers was early; they caught it. And with my uncle, I lost him. So this was near and dear to me. And then when reading these final couple of paragraphs, it really put more of the severity of his situation, which I didn't know to that level. And he's just such a positive, upbeat person. I'm not ashamed to say it brought me to tears. So I said, look, brother, you got to put this out, because at the end of the day, there's so many gamers that are suffering in silence, and this is going to help people. And Dizzy's a very humble guy. He never asks for anything. He never, we tried, I speak, supposed his wife is a child, trying to get some awareness to him, because he's really, he won't put himself in front of anyone. He always thinks about others. And just to see the support and everyone come together, I want to shout you guys out again. Everyone on this panel, I'm saying, Zemi, Rand, Wilmy, the entire community. It has just been really positive to see. And this is something we got to talk about, because we all, if not have been directly affected, there's been someone adjacent to us or someone we know that's been affected. So shout out to Dizzy. That's my brother. We're going to fight this thing, and I just wanted to say, man, this is pretty awesome what we're doing for the gaming community.
Well, listen, real quick, I have to welcome into the show Mike Ibarra. Listen, Mike, I want to tell you so much from the bottom of my heart. It is a real honor and a pleasure to have you on tonight's stream. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. Hopefully you can all hear me.
Yes.
But I just listened to the story. Cancer has impacted my family, and anything I can do to help Dizzy in this time is, well worth it. Cancer sucks. I see it on the Xbox Factor podcast sign here, and I couldn't agree more than that. So I'm happy to be here and to talk to you guys as well. It's been a while for some of you.
Yeah, well, you know what? I got to tell you, obviously, I think the entire Xbox community was obviously shocked when you left Microsoft. But right now, you're in your dream job. We know you're a big PC guy, and holy cow, Blizzard. How has that been?
Yeah, I mean, leaving Xbox was really hard. And honestly, one of the hardest elements about that, after 20 years, it's time for change at Microsoft,
Yes.
8 at Xbox. So for me personally, it's like, new change, new excitement, new fun. I'm in. The thing that was the hardest and still is hard is just the community that is Xbox, because I do really feel like that's an incredibly special community that pulls for each other and shares an incredible passion and love for the art of gaming. And I miss that the most. But you're right. I've loved Blizzard from day one. I played Blizzard games a huge part of my life. It almost took over my life at one point. Somehow I'm still married, and somehow I got through college. But both of those were at risk. That's how bad it got at one point.
Mike is passionate about that. That is true. I played Destiny with him, and I know his Diablo passion. It's real.
Yeah. So to be at Blizzard, to stay in gaming, Blizzard has incredible fans as well. And I'm learning a lot more. And I said something on Twitter that I firmly believe, there comes a time where no matter who you are, what you do, it's time to get out of the way and let other people drive forward. And I think Xbox needs that. And I'm happy to see the team executing well. There's incredible excitement for Xbox right now. I'm incredibly proud of what they're doing, but I'm also equally happy to be at Blizzard and to help this company serve gamers and exceed their expectations. That's our mission, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, listen, thank you so much for being here. You know, Mike, if you don't mind, I know you had said something in the opening when you started talking about how cancer has affected you personally. What we're going to do is, before we get into the gaming aspect, because we don't want to lose the focus of why we're here, I think that Cognito, you wanted to kind of talk about something personal about how cancer affected you. And if you don't mind, would you mind talking about that?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, staying on track, you know, like I said, first instance was with my mom. You know, she was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Wow.
And it gave us a pretty good scare. I had to learn very quickly, you know, that all cancers, you know, are not the same. Also, treatments and where you go for treatment is very important. And at the time, you know, someone I was dating was like, look, you better get your mom out of, you know, this situation, because they don't have the greatest, you know, cancer program in New York. So we went from Montefiore to NYU, which had a better, you know, treatment, better diagnosis, better just everything from a scientific standpoint. And yeah, once we got her there, it was more of okay, it's early. We were lucky and we caught it. She was able to get a vasectomy and survive. But it was a very trying time, just learning everything, seeing what was going on. And then the second instance, which was not, you know, that didn't have a good result, was my uncle. And he lives, I have a lot of family in London, and he lives out there. And I went out there maybe 3 or 4 years prior, and he was doing fine. But he had liver cancer, and then yeah, his symptoms was very rapid. So we had to fly out there, and unfortunately, you know what I'm saying, we lost him before we could actually, you know, see him for the last time. So that one really hit me, and it just goes to show you, like, life is short. Really appreciate everyone you have. And again, you know, if you're suffering in silence, because the only mistake I would say was, man, I would say mistake, but we just wish we knew what he was going through. Right. Yeah. So that's why, for me, this is extremely important. Dizzy's situation is extremely important, because again, he's letting us know where it is, what's going on. You know, obviously in the article, we talked about clinicals and stuff like that. And it's a rare form of cancer that he has. So this is something that we really need to bring awareness to and really try to help him out as best as we can. And gaming is something that really helps the spirit in that regard. And it's really brought us all together. So I love that aspect of what we're doing.
Yeah. You know, for me personally, I open and close the shows, every show with stuff that my dad taught me. My dad has always been my hero. In 97, he passed away at 45. He was a blue collar worker in the construction field. He was a master taper. This was a project kid that had a son at 17 and another son at 19. And adopted another son at the age of 30, which is my brother Dan. And he had what's called lymphoma. And after a year, unfortunately, we lost him. And it is, you know, again, it's not what's going to happen with Dizzy, but everyone, I think, could understand how terrible this is, not just for the person that's dealing with it, it's the family around you that people sometimes forget are suffering suffering in silence, because they have to be strong for the person. They can't show the emotion. They can't break down in front of that person and cry, because they're letting it beat them. So a lot of the times they are leaving the room and breaking down and coming back, and you wouldn't even know. And I did that a lot. So I understand. But that's why when, and again, getting back to how this whole event happened, was both Wilmy and Cognito had come to me and said, listen, you know, you have an amazing audience and an amazing fan base. Would you be okay to do this on your channel? And I immediately jumped at the chance to do this for Dizzy and his family, because I have personally dealt with it. Josie's mom passed away in 2018 after dealing with 6 different types of cancers over 7 years. And it was devastating for her, and it was devastating for me because you know what, be announced to what most people say about their in-laws. I actually happen to really like mine.
Shout out to the in-laws.
It was devastating. And you know what? I just want to say this before I hand it over to the next person that would like to share something. The amount of super chats that are coming in are so incredible that I almost feel guilty not calling you out by name. I want to apologize because I normally feel like a complete heel, almost like a bad guy when I miss someone. Whether it's $1 or $100, everyone deserves to be shouted out. And I apologize that it has been it's literally uncontrolled right now, and we will try to give everyone a proper shout out. But is there anyone else that would like to kind of maybe talk about maybe something that happened that's a little personal?
I'm happy to.
Oh, Mike. Okay, great. Wonderful.
Yeah, this is very recent for me. And I've never talked about it, so this will be sort of the first time.
Okay, well,
5 months ago.
Yeah.
5 months ago, my mother-in-law came down with pancreatic cancer.
Oh,
and it was so incredibly fast. This is why cancer is such a pain in the ass, because it was so incredibly fast. And in 2 months' time, we had lost her. And
wow.
For it to do, to go that fast was so obviously incredibly difficult for my wife, for the family. And it really makes you step back and really makes you think about sort of your day-to-day life, your priorities, what's important to you, and all the petty shit that goes on, how you just need to really forget about that.
Yeah.
Give your kids a hug, give your wife a hug, give your friends a hug. Don't worry about hugging your friends is not manly, because man, it's brutal. And having just gone through that, when I got this Twitter request, I paused and didn't answer for a day because I was like, man, I just went through this. So is this really something that I can be productive and helpful on? And we're still going through that process, but I also feel like the gaming community needs to come together for our friends that are out there, and so it's just an awesome opportunity. But it can hit fast, it can hit slow, and I'll tell you, someone said earlier that it's just as hard on the family going through it, and I think that's right. It's really difficult to kind of see through that, and being strong for them is incredibly important. And we're all here for Dizzy for that exact reason.
Exactly.
Well, I definitely appreciate you sharing that with us, Mike, because obviously it's an first of all, it's fresh. It's fresh for you because 60 days is nothing. And I got news for you. I don't know how I don't know how I held it in, but I did, because when I talk about my pop, even though he passed away, Jesus, it's over 20 years ago. It feels like it was yesterday. I remember going to see him in Einstein Hospital in the Bronx, and it's I kind of wondered if we took, like Cognitive was saying, did we do the right thing by bringing him there? You know what I'm saying? And it really, at the end of the day, it's where you go to make sure you're getting the best care, and that's why we are here. Because besides the illness, besides the emotional stress with the family, besides the what ifs, especially when you have small kids, and IDizzy does. There's a financial burden that comes along that is it could really hurt the chances of said person healing, because stress does increase this disease. It happened with my dad, and when I think I only had 3 years as a New York City police officer when my dad got sick. And I was a kid. I was only, 25. I got on the job young, and I had to take over helping my dad. I had to take over the financial responsibilities because he was a self-made dude. You know, he had his own business, and we all know that when you have your own business, there's no insurance, right? There's no paycheck coming in. No one's going to say, you know, okay, Larry, take the day. It's okay, we got you. And it was a real wake-up call. So that's why we're here, because we want to try and help Dizzy financially, and God damn it, we're going to do it.
I think we've got a good start on it already.
Oh, I think that the amount of super chats that have come in have been nothing short of breathtaking, and I just want people to be assured that every dollar is going to IDizzy and his family. And I'm dropping into a link into the chat if you'd like to donate directly to IDizzy, where YouTube, you know, those MFs get 30%, and both Josie and I are going to try and pick that up on the back end of this. We're going to try to do our best because obviously, you know, we want to make sure that he gets every dollar. If you want to donate directly to him, this is his wife's PayPal account, but it's the family's PayPal me account. Please, I highly encourage you, if you want to donate. And let's say, for instance, you don't get this show tonight on the live stream, please go over and donate there. And I'm going to be putting this up for the next couple of weeks so we can get maximum money for him and his family. Anyone else would like to share something?
Oh, I can.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Okay. So, what is this now? About 15 or 20 years ago was my first brush with death.
Wow.
Growing up, my family had a cottage in Wisconsin that we'd go to every single summer. And my parents had, like, one of their best friends lived up in Wisconsin. So whenever we go up to Wisconsin for the summer, we would also hang out at their place. And they had kids roughly my age and my younger brothers and sisters. And we always thought of them as our cousins, even though they were my parents' friends and we hung out with them. We thought of the parents as like our aunts and uncles, and the kids as our cousins. And I was the older one, so I always thought of Joey I always thought of him as like a younger brother. So we go up there every single year, and they would come visit us at home. And one year we went up there, and we were just hanging out, and Joey got really sick. And I mean, like, extremely sick, so much so they had to take him to the hospital. And we're like, you know what, we'll leave. We went back to the cottage. And then the next day, the doctors had said that he was diagnosed with stage 4 leukemia.
Wow.
And then the next day, he was dead.
Holy cow, dude.
Damn.
So we had went up there to have a great time with family, and it ended with someone I consider a younger brother passing away and having wakes and funerals. And I remember just sitting there in disbelief. I crying my eyes out when we had to go to the funeral, and I just couldn't believe here was a kid that I had spent a lot of the summers with. I remember playing like Sega Genesis with them and Nintendo and Mario Brothers 3 and stuff. And I had just hung out with them, and then here he was. And it was, I still remember it as just like, you need to appreciate life now, because you never know what's, on the other side. You never know what tomorrow's going to bring. So that's a story I always think about, cherish life, because tomorrow's not given. That's my story.
No, well, dude, I definitely appreciate you sharing that. I'm actually really happy that everyone has something to say. Wilmy, would you like to jump in here, brother?
Yeah, it started for me at a very young age. My grandmother, she was diagnosed, I think I was 6 years old. And, Boom, you and I are the oldest two guys on the panel. I'm not going to pick on Todd.
I'm getting there. I'm up there.
Back when we were kids,
almost 50.
back when we were kids, man, the medical, it wasn't as good as it is now.
No.
My poor grandmother, man, it was like every 2 weeks we were taking her to the hospital. They were, cutting her up or, just doing something to her, trying to keep her going. And, she was the strongest woman I ever remembered. I mean, She was tough. And, you know, she fought and fought as long as she could, but I mean, she eventually lost the fight. Then 3 years after that, my grandfather was diagnosed with lung cancer, and the guy never smoked a cigarette in his life.
Wow.
He actually managed to make it maybe 2 years past the diagnosis, and speed up, you know, a few years. And I think I actually told Dizzy, I don't tell many people. If you've listened to me at any time at all, if you remember back in September, I was on RDX. I had a scare myself.
Wow.
And I actually do have a rare form of skin cancer, which is nothing compared to what Dizzy has. You know, for me, it's something I go and I have removed, and they just monitor. But I mean, you know, it's still it does worry you, man. It doesn't matter what type of cancer it is, and you know, but it's like I said, man. There's not many people on this planet that's not affected by this crap.
Yeah.
No, I mean, listen. I mean, I was telling Cognito, you know, like I had a bit of a health scare about a week ago. I had a phantom pain in my side, and I was a 9/11 first responder. I was down there for 68 days, and people don't understand. You think that it's just the towers that killed the 3,000 people? No, it's not. It's double the amount of people that have passed away from illnesses from the air quality down there. And you know, I just retired in 2014, you know, and I want to make sure that I live for a long time. So yeah, dude, you know, my pop passed at 45. So when I got that pain, man, I'm not going to sit here and lie. I mean, I continued on with the shows and people didn't know anything. But behind the scenes, man, I was petrol for like 2 weeks, you know, waiting for all those tests to come back. Thankfully, it was nothing, but yeah, I know, man, it's scary. But Zemi Games, is there anything that you would like to possibly add? Because you're very young, but that doesn't mean you don't have a trying story.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was about 3 or 4 years ago. My grandmother, who has like lived with, you know, my family for, I mean, my entire life, right? She used to look after us whenever we were little kids and everything like that. She started, you know, not feeling so good, and she went to the hospital, or she went to the doctor, and they, you know, scanned her, and she found out that she had lung cancer. And the doctor actually told her that she basically had, you know, days to weeks to live. And, you know, so we immediately got her into chemo. And, you know, fortunately, she did actually come out of it, and she's, you know, still with us today. But, you know, I mean, during that time, I mean, it was scary. You know, my mother, she'd stay up, you know, late at night, worried, you know. I had a little bit of, you know, issue sleeping as well. But, you know, fortunately, she came out. She's still with us. She's, you know, she still gets checked up every single, like, I think it was 6 months at a time. And then now she's getting checked every year. But I guess, you know, like this, you know, this story, you know, just kind of shows that, you know, no matter how dark it may appear, how dark it may seem, even, you know, maybe if you get that absolute, you know, terrible diagnosis, you know, there's always some light, I guess, that can be found. And, you know, you're not going to go until it's your time to go.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Boom, you there? Have we lost Boom for a second?
Sorry, I had muted myself.
It's all right, man. I was actually wanted to jump in just real quick.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, because obviously the stories everyone is telling are really, really powerful, and I just wanted to highlight again for those who didn't know, you know, who even are not familiar with Dizzy and you know what we're doing. I just wanted to again, if we could highlight that article. So I'm going to put that in the chat from Lords of Gaming.
By all means,
yeah, lordsofgaming.net. It's Dizzy's story, Gaming with Cancer. If you have not read it, you know that will kind of give you in depth, you know, during his journey, during this whole process of him with his family. And also on a positive note, you know, how gaming really helps that journey while you're going through these trying times. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to Attic with that. I had to shout him out. I never seen him in the chat before. Shout out to Attic with that. That's awesome, brother. That's a Lord in there. Shout out to everybody obviously in the chat. We're not gonna try to ignore anybody. But yeah, again, if you get a chance, please, you know, read that. It's extremely powerful because again, as gamers, that's our common bond. Right. And gaming that's also a kind of form of escapism in a positive way to get your mind off the negativity, sometimes. And it's really cool to see how he talked about, the Switch, and he talked about xCloud and streaming services. All these things helped him, what I'm saying? Even bringing his Xbox and stuff like that while he's gaming, and it's just, it's a really cool story to really focus on. I just wanted to highlight that because, again, he wrote it from the heart.
Yes.
And I definitely think people should give it some attention if they have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, listen, this has been, I want to thank everybody on this panel for not just being here, not just celebrating Dizzy, not coming to the cause when the bat signal went up, but for taking the time to share personal stories with not only one another, but with this incredible community. And Mike, I kind of just want to harken back to what you said about, this is, of course, the Xbox Factor podcast, but thankfully, I have 3 live shows weekly that I write for and I produce myself, and they are the kind of shows that everyone is welcomed. And I'm going to tell you this, the one thing I have to say that is very touching is this community, when it's called upon, responds in kind. And you can see that by the amount of super chats coming in here. I honestly feel like a complete heel because I can't keep up with them. And I'm really so proud to say that we are going to be able to donate to Dizzy and his lovely, beautiful family a significant amount of money, and I cannot thank you enough. But if it's okay with everybody, I would kind of like to just move on to the gaming aspect, being that we kind of got all of the emotional stuff, which, again, I gotta be honest, I don't know how I held it together, because when I think about my dad, I can cry on command, and somehow, I guess it's the professionalism in me, I didn't do it tonight. But I want to go to one of the biggest stories I think to come out of 2020, and that, of course, is the cancellation of E3 2020. And what's obviously, and I think it's safe to say we could all agree with this, it has been the Super Bowl of gaming, and an event where it's a celebration of both developers, publishers, and, of course, the millions of fans that have attended this since 1995. And obviously this was always a trade show for the corporations to see the new wares from developers and publishers and hardware makers. And obviously, way back in the days when this started, I guess when the wheel was invented, there were such things known as the N64, Sega Saturn, and the original OG PlayStation. And those were the I guess the babies, if you will, of this incredible electronic expo extravaganza. Now, Mike, I follow you on Twitter, obviously, and I have you so I get all your tweets. I'm not stalking you or anything. I just want you to know I really respect you in this industry. But you said something that really was interesting regarding the digital events and why more companies should start doing it, because Nintendo does it and they do it really well. Could you kind of maybe talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, to me, E3 is an incredibly powerful event, but it was established back when retail dominated. It was right before the holidays so that people could get their games out, and then people would go in over the holidays and purchase them. And I just think that modern behavior today, people need information at their fingertips every second of the day. And it's not one time a year where you save up all of these amazing gaming announcements and stories and kind of do this week-long event and you learn about it. And I found, the first time I watched Nintendo's, I was at Xbox. The first time I watched Nintendo's digital event, I was like, you got to be kidding me. Is this going to work? And sure enough, it did work. And I was like, wow, imagine having 4 or 5 of these powerful updates when gaming news was ready, instead of sort of this traditional holiday event that happens. There's just something about that I think is more modern. And us as gamers, I'm taking off my hat that I work in the industry. Us as gamers, we want information, and we want it as soon as possible. And I think that drives better excitement for the industry overall and better growth of gaming overall, instead of saving up for events. The thing that you lose in that is you lose the communities, which is incredibly powerful. A forum for communities to get together, meet each other. You know, I've met probably 90% of my best friends online in games, and many other people do that as well. And so I like the idea of platform holders, Nintendo, Sony, you know, whoever, doing these events and inviting fans to them and doing them more regular than once a year. I just think that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think, you know, okay, listen, first of all, last year, okay, I'm going to be 50 in September, so I'm the old dog in the room. I had my career as a New York City police officer. I did 21 years before a spinal cord injury kind of cut my my career short. Now I'm walking, but I have a massive amount of hardware holding me together. So I've been gaming since 1978, and I've always loved gaming. And last year, thanks to the Iron Lord's tutelage, if you will, I went to my first E3, and I gotta tell you, not only is it an unbelievable experience with just the amount of what you can see there, but it was the human element that I absolutely fell in love with. I got to meet so many people that show up in this chat, so many other podcasters that I never met in real life and only talked to them. And I think that we were all going this year to E3, and it was going to be Microsoft's biggest year, I think. And I think they're still going to do something amazing. But it's the human element. And again, of course, public safety and of the safety of the developers, the content creators, the people that just come to have a good time is super important. But I hope that this isn't going to be the final nail in the coffin. Cognito, what are your personal thoughts about, with everything that happened with the ESA last year with the leaks, right? It was a real rocky time. A lot of people pulled out. Oh, I have an echo. Okay, that's not good.
No, you're good right now.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
What I mean, is this the nail in the coffin, so to speak?
I mean, it's possible. I mean, the thing right now, excuse the siren by me, but what I was gonna say is the thing for it right now is that for me, this is a tough time. Obviously, this show is we have the Dizzy's aspect of what's going on with him. You know what I'm saying? Then obviously we have the E3 news, and more importantly, the coronavirus. And in that respect, from a human standpoint, selfishly, I'm depressed. But from a human aspect, I understand. When you have a pandemic that's going on, the show cannot go on, so to speak. And it's, to put it in layman's terms, speaking with Dizzy, if something like that was to affect him, he's the most at high risk, especially people with respiratory or any type of lung issues. So that kind of put things in perspective to kind of get me out of my feelings about missing E3. But back to E3. E3 is always going to be near and dear to me. You know what I'm saying? As a gamer, as a hardcore gamer, I grew up always, watching, getting a little VHS tape back in the day because it was just strictly trade show and just watch, what the new releases are from all the major, the big three, so to speak. And then in 2015, it was really special because I just said to myself, like, that's my dream. I want to go to E3. As a gamer, that was like the Mecca. Like, I had to be there, And thankfully, I got a chance to go out there. It was the Xbox Fan Fest at the time. And I didn't know anything. I met a lot of people I know in the community now, Megatron and my boy Wargaman, and the Ruler.
So many amazing people.
The list goes on. I mean, the hardcore passion just to go there, be in the mall, and sleep on the floor. But it was that passion because you want to be there for that press conference. And in the morning, you see Mike and Phil pull up, and you're like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? It's just such an amazing experience, just to go and then, to be at a press conference, to be there live when these guys come out on stage and make these announcements. To me, that's what it's about. It's more for me, those live moments, and then the camaraderie. And finally, meeting your gaming heroes, people that inspired you in gaming, or just other content creators or people you gamed with that you never met. And you're like, oh my God, this is this person. So the human element for me really hurts. You know what I'm saying? Now, as far as to your question, yeah, this is tough, man, because at the end of the day, you know, I agree with Mike that yes, the way Nintendo Direct has been doing it, if they do it, you know, if a company does it properly from a digital standpoint and showcase what they need to, you know, it could be highly effective, especially with the narrative and controlling your own narrative and things of that nature. The only thing I worry about, Boom, is just, again, I'm selfish. I love the event. I don't want it to die completely and go away. But if it's so successful now with this coronavirus being there, you know, companies may evaluate, like, financially, is it really, you know, does it make sense to continue, you know, moving forward? So that's my only concern, because if it is successful digitally for all of the major three, what's the incentive necessarily to come back? And we already know there's been issues with the ESA, with the leaking, with, you know, the things of that nature. So you just got to wait and see, man. You know, you just got to wait and see. That's what I got on it right now.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, right now, I mean, the world itself is at a holding pattern. But E3, it would be a sad day in gaming if everything was just done, you know, digitally. Now, obviously, you know, with what's going on in the world, they will get a handle on it, and things will get back to what we call normal. How long that's going to be, I don't know. But you know, Wilmy Hood, I want to go to you next on this, because you yourself were going to E3, and we all had planned to meet and everything. So of course, it's you know, it's kind of it's upsetting that we don't get to meet in real life, so to speak. But we are always talking. For you personally, what does E3 mean for games? But do you agree with Cognito that this could be the end of the big conference?
I mean, it possibly could be. And it's like Mike said a few moments ago, people now want information every minute of every day. All you have to do is look at Twitter. You can see it daily. I hope it doesn't, because I pulled out, you know, as soon as they started mentioning the virus in California, because, you know, like I said, my wife has rheumatoid arthritis. That's one of the people that this thing can really hit hard. So I'm hoping we can all meet up in 2021.
Yes.
You know, I really, really hope it doesn't, you know, I hope it's not the nail in the coffin for E3, but it's like Cog said a few moments ago, you had that whole thing, you know, last year with info being leaked, all that stuff that put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And now this, you know, comes along this year. I hope, man, there's one we can all meet up at next year. I really do, because I look forward to watching them, period. Whether I'm there in person, I've always watched them for years, because I would always, you know, turn it on to Mixer or Twitch or wherever I could find them, and I'd sit and watch the whole thing. You know, I always wanted to know what was coming. So I really hope this doesn't end them, but all we can do is wait and see at this point.
No, that's a great point. Real quick, I have been informed by the lady of the realm, Mrs. Boomstick, that when we're going to talk about the sea or, you know, health situation, don't say the name, because apparently
that's why I didn't say it.
They are demonetizing all YouTubers that say the word, which is ridiculous. But if you can just say the C or the world health situation, it would be greatly appreciated. You know, Randall, Thor, I want to go to you, because I just saw your video regarding E3, another stellar accomplishment. Love your work. Actually, watching you is kind of what got me into being a podcaster. So thank you for all of the work that you do. But you know, you got a chance to break 1 million gamer score at E3, which is amazing. And on top of that, in your video, you yourself, you talked about it even on the Xbox too, that you're not sure if the ESA and E3 come back from this. You know, what are your thoughts on what's going on, and can E3 actually be a thing?
Well, yeah, thanks, Boom. I mean, the going to E3 was like a dream of mine forever, and that was kind of, I was able to go E3 2016 and hitting the 1 million gamer score. Obviously, like, I think I have a lot to. I thank Mike so much, because I'm pretty sure he was one of the people directly responsible for that happening, because. I mean, I don't know. Even still to this day, the fact that I was allowed to go and actually do it still kind of blows my mind. So I'll always be grateful to Mike and everybody at Xbox who let me do that there. I'm disappointed that there's no E3 this year. I look forward to it every single year. And I think I kind of agree with Mike, like with the digital format. E3 is an expensive show to put on. And I'm sure, the figures are very high to have show floor space. And you also kind of share the news with everybody else. Like Microsoft is doing something, Activision is doing something, EA is doing something. Everybody is doing something around the same time. So some announcements kind of get lost in the ether. Some announcements are really kind of amplified. So you're all fighting for that same headspace. And some things just kind of get lost in the shuffle. So now, if these companies who obviously have things to sell, Microsoft wants to promote Xbox Series X and whatever, and Halo Infinite especially coming out at the end of the year. Sony's obviously going to be promoting PS5 and their games. Warner Brothers Montreal's got games coming. CD Projekt Red, everybody has something they need to market, and usually that was around E3. But with that now gone, these companies are going to have to do digital events. And if you can get the same traction from a digital event that you can produce yourself and stream on Twitch, stream on YouTube, stream on Mixer, stream on Facebook or whatever, and get the same engagement that you would normally have, but not have to spend the money to put on a show at E3, then I could foresee a lot of these publishers and developers being like, you know what, we're not going to waste our time and we're not going to waste our money. We're not going to waste our resources doing it because now it's a proven method. Now we're just going to do our own digital stuff and save money and be the only one putting out the news. Now, instead of everybody vying for gamers' attentions during the week in June, we can do it whenever and get exactly what we need. So I fear that this is the last. I think it'll come back next year, but I think if everybody's announcements are hit the way they want, it'll be drastically reduced, and in a couple years it will be a shell of its former self, and I'm not even sure it'll even really exist. But it'll be a sad day. Like, I look forward to watching it every single year. Like, I wanted to go next year, going from Chicago to E3 every single year. Like, I wanted to go last couple years, but it's just like, man, it's so expensive flying out there and getting hotels, and it's, wasn't in the cards. But I mean, I kind of feel like this might be it. This, this whole situation. But you know what? This creates opportunities. Now you have to think differently. You have to put on a digital event. So the people over at Xbox and PlayStation and all these different places are going to have to somehow figure it out. I'm sure they were wanting these big announcements. They were planning to have audience reactions. Like, I know we joke about hey, Fable might be coming back, right? Mm-hmm. But if you were expecting to put that game finally revealed at E3 and the crowd going wild for it, which they would, but how do you get across that now in just a digital format without any crowd? Right. Now it's got to be planned differently. But then it's like, do you also, if you're doing a digital event, do you want to do everything in one? Do you want to have multiple digital events like Nintendo does? So now that opens up the door to different strategies and different lines of thinking. So ultimately, it could be a good thing in that regard. Instead of Microsoft waiting for one day of the year to say everything they want to say and then going radio silent the rest of the year, this may, prove to them that no, people want to know information in February. People want to know information in May. People want to know information in July, and we will get a whole bunch of stuff more often than just, hey, wait to E3.
Mm-hmm. No, that actually makes sense. And Zemi Games, I'm going to come back around to everybody because, we're talking about E3 and what we think about it. But I want to talk about, after I get to Zemi's point, what is one of your personal favorite things of E3? I know Mike's going to have something interesting because actually he used to work behind the scenes. But Zemi, what are your thoughts on the potential of E3 actually dying out, not actually having a social gathering as big as E3 anymore?
I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, anything's possible, right? But I really don't see it happening. And I understand the importance of, these digital events, live streaming your content and stuff like that. But, we've seen Xbox start to do that right now, with streaming on Mixer, once every couple of months, right? And using that with E3 seems like that would be the strongest way to market what you're going after. And I think one huge disadvantage for for not having an E3 this year is that we're not going to have that personal touch.
Yes.
Communities aren't going to be able to go to that event and see their favorite company, see their favorite games being announced, and cheer in the crowd, and talk to those community managers and those developers and shake their hands, and there's not going to be that personal touch. And when gaming first started out, it was more of like a hobby that people would just kind of do by themselves. They may talk about games with some of their friends and whatever, but as it's evolved, it's more social than anything, than anything, right? And so I think not having an E3 would be very detrimental, right? Not having an E3 this year, I think it's obviously not a good thing. I think that most of these companies would probably prefer to go to E3.
Yes.
So, I think a lot of it comes down to communities. Like, yes, you can, yes, E3 is expensive. Sure, you can, do a live stream for a heck of a lot cheaper, but I don't think you're going to have that same connection with gamers. And, like Cognito said, he always envisioned E3 as like the mecca of gaming, right? Mm-hmm. And I've never been to E3, but as soon as he said that, I started shaking my head like, yeah, I've always viewed E3 as like the golden grail of like gaming conventions, right? The place I always wanted to go to, and I haven't went yet, and I hope maybe next year I'll be able to go. So I think that the hype and the excitement that this event, just the like the two characters E3 brings, is worth it enough to have that convention still going. They may not be able to do it, in the same exact way. They may have to transition. They may have to change it even more to community focused, as like we've kind of seen them do in the last few years. It used to be, only people in the industry could go, and then they opened it up, and they've, continued to open it up. So they may have to transition it from what it is now and what it has been, but I think it will continue to go on. And the thing that I find so interesting about this, though, is that, we're all talking about, E3 not being a thing, right? But nobody's talking about PAX not being a thing, or Gamescom not being a thing. Why is that, right? And I'm not completely sure about that. I think that, it might be some bias, with certain gamers, having their company not going to that, so they see that E3 has no value anymore, and so all of this is being brought up. But I just find it really interesting that we're talking about E3 not being a thing, but nobody's talking about any of these other conventions that are less important, should not being not being a thing. But
that's a great point. Actually, it's a really great point. You know what it is? I think because E3, like you said, is the mecca of gaming for this country. Now, again, no one takes anything away from PAX. PAX is great. And obviously, I think Comic-Con, even though it's in July, that may be affected. You know what I'm saying? They just had CinemaCon get canceled, and that's in Las Vegas. We had South by Southwest in Texas get canceled. I think that all of these cancellations, though they're sad, and of course it's going to be a financial press on this country, it has to happen because you can't pretend this isn't going on. And they can treat people better if there are no big gatherings. So again, I do agree with you that no one is really saying, hey, what about the smaller ones? I think the reason why E3 is in the news is because it's E3.
Yeah. Sure. And because it's E3, I think it's going to be really hard to see it, dissipate and not be a thing. I mean, it's such a nostalgic event. Every year you might have gamers that really don't read news articles. They may not really watch live streams or anything like that. But once they hear E3, that's when their ears perk up. right? And that's when they go and they start looking at all these, different things coming out. So I think the importance of E3 is way too important to just let it go into, obscurity.
No, I absolutely agree. So listen, I want to bring this back around because obviously this is all a bunch of sadness. We're all devastated that we're not going to E3. But I want to talk about some fun stuff for a second. Mike, I want to go to you first because I don't know how much time that you have to be with us. So I want to make sure that we get as much Mike Ibarra as we could possibly get. Mike, you are sitting in a unique position because you get to see, I mean, obviously E3 is work for you guys. There's no doubt about it. We come there and we're just, buy a ticket and we're having fun. You guys are stressing and worrying if that, the demo is going to work or this, everything is going to, pan out the way it's supposed to be. But for you personally, in your illustrious gaming career, what is one of your favorite E3 memories?
Oh, wow. I think the best thing for me personally when I'm at E3 is seeing how proud the team is of the work they're doing when they finally get to show it off. They hear every fan, they hear the roars and the claps when games start and trailers get playing. They watch Rand's videos. All of this just contributes to the pride of people working years
Yes.
on things, and it's a special thing to see that and to be part of that. And the best parts of E3 for me are moments where you get to see that. Now, the best thing that's happened at E3 for me, I met Miyamoto at E3, and that was probably the biggest moment for me. I mean, I grew up on Nintendo. I never owned Sega back when I was
Mike! I'm joking. The Sega kid would be cringed.
But meeting somebody like that put so many smiles on my face in my youth, and even now that I'm 45, I just that was a surreal moment where I was, a 12-year-old kid again in front of an idol of mine that has made this industry what it is in so many different ways, and is just such a role model in how he manages teams and delivers just hit after hit after hit. It was one of the best moments in my life. It really was.
Nice.
I'm going to say this. I've never met him, but I, like you, have been a fan of his since I was a kid. And I'm going to say something about Miyamoto. He has an infectious smile. Like when you see him excited, you feel like he understands you. Even if you don't actually get to speak to him, he just has a presence that when he comes out on the stage and he has that big cheese smile, you want to have a bigger one because you understand that he just loves gaming. Mike, that's an awesome story. My goodness, I would have loved to meet him. Cognito, I want to go to you next, brother, because you obviously, we talk all the time. See, we are brothers outside of the podcast game. Facts. And we talk on a daily basis, like brothers should do. But for you personally, what is that one moment, whether it was at E3 or it was maybe watching E3 in one of those bootleg tapes
back in the day, right? Yeah, man. I mean, for me, it's Mike stole my thunder a little bit because I was gonna kind of mention a similar story, but yeah, for me, obviously, my first E3. I'll talk about the E3 that the E3s that I've been to, but so my first E3 was E3 2015, and it was I'll cheat. It's kind of two moments, but it's the same E3. The first was obviously, like I said, doing the whole fan fest thing and all that stuff, and not knowing what to expect from Microsoft. So I think me personally, I never saw the biggest pop I saw in the crowd was actually when backward compatibility was announced, because at that time we never knew that was in play. It was really kept under wraps. So shout out to Mike and the team and Phil, you guys at the time, that really keeping that under wraps. And at the time, I also got a chance to meet Bill Stillwell. And as a tech, I came from the whole idea of, when you had a Sega Genesis, you needed the tech of the old system to be in the new hardware, like a power-based converter to play Sega Master System games on Genesis. So this whole idea you know, the virtualization and backward compatibility, it really blew my mind. And the fact that, you know, when Phil got on stage and, you know, it's free of charge, that you are not going to pay, like the pop in there was crazy. It was insane. So that was a really cool surprise moment you never seen before. And then from the aspect, similar to what Mike was saying, that same E3, being a Sega kid, you know, growing up with all the arcade games back in the day, Yu Suzuki is a childhood hero for me.
Yes.
You know, I grew up on the, you know, the Shinobis. That's where my namesake is. You know, Lord, you know, my namesake is Shinobi. You know what I'm saying? So the hang-ons, the outruns, you know, and then when he went over to Dreamcast with the initial Shenmue, so he always holds a special. So the fact that I was in the same vicinity, I literally stopped what I'm doing, like beelined over to him, shook his hand, and again, similar to what Mike was saying, it's just like you really go back into being a child because you remember the joy and the memories as a kid from the arcade that those games and had on me. You know what I'm saying? The Virtual Fighters and so on and so forth. So yeah, 2015 was pretty special E3 for me, being my first one with those things happening.
That's a great story. That's a great story. Wilmy Hood, let's go to you next, brother. What for you personally is one of those E3 moments, whether it was actually there or whether you watched it somewhere else?
I can't think of the name of the game now. That's the sad part.
We can come back around to you if you want.
Yeah, dude, because I know the moment, but I just cannot remember the name of that game right now for some odd reason, because there were actually talks about redoing it for the Xbox One.
Dude, you know what you do? Mute your mic, go online, ask Google, and we'll come back.
That's a good idea.
Because that's what I do as a host. When I forget something, I'm going to Google. But Randall Thor, I mean, listen, Rand, it's easy to say, well, Microsoft invited me out to hit 1 million gamer score, but I think there's got to be something else there.
You mean as in like a favorite moment?
Yeah. What is your favorite E3 moment that just kind of just jumps off the page for you?
I mean, well, okay. So you're saying I can't use that moment? Like,
I mean, you can't
glorify yourself, Fred. Obviously, that's the moment.
Yes.
You know,
there's got to be something else in E3's history that made you jump out of your chair.
Put him on the spot, Boom. I like this.
I mean,
like this. Keep it going.
I jumped out of my chair. You know, I think. Sure. Okay. Here's one. This one two of them actually. Do you guys remember when Peter Moore talked about the big guns?
Yeah.
And then he rolled up his
a good
sleeve,
one.
and he had Grand Theft Auto 4 tattooed on his arm. I remember watching that and thinking like, oh my God, right? And then the other one that I can think of off the top of my head was Final Fantasy 13 getting announced from Xbox for Xbox. Because at the time, it was only going to be on PlayStation, and then suddenly, I believe some guy came out and like tapped Don Matrick on the back of the shoulder, and it was like, oh, this one last thing, and because I was going to get a PlayStation 3 because I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan. Granted, Final Fantasy 13 didn't turn out to be very good, but those two moments were like, holy cow. But obviously nothing really compares to being there and meeting everybody, hanging out with Tim Dog and Southbound and Megatron and going out to dinner with Mike and like meeting Rod Ferguson and Phil and everybody at like the event that they held the day after and stuff. It was so cool. And it's I still, you know, I think about it all the time. Like, you know, usually people post pictures and stuff, and it's just an incredible moment that I'll never forget for the rest of my life.
That's definitely powerful for sure. Wilmy Hood, were you able to get that information?
Actually, it was not a game. Does anybody remember when Miyamoto came out on stage dressed as Link?
Oh yes, I do. That was awesome.
That was definitely a catcher.
That's a good one, dude. Because that actually, if you look, when I was writing up the show, you know, I like to, of course, do my investigation work. I guess it's the cop in me, but that was actually in the top 10 moments of E3 through its history. Was Miyamoto coming out dressed up as like holding up that sword, which was, I mean, come on, I mean, it's Miyamoto, for crying out loud. Of course, it's awesome. So Zemi Games, let me go to you because I have mine. Mine one's. I'm doing mine last. Zemi Games. Let me go to you, my brother. What for you personally stands out as your favorite E3 moment?
You know, I thought about this for a very, very, very long time, and I kept coming to the same thing. And I kept saying to myself, "Zimmy, you can't say that. That's awful. Like, what are people going to think about you?" So here we go. While Mike Ibarra is in the room, probably my favorite moment, and it's very bittersweet, but and I'll explain it. But it's the Xbox like PR nightmare for 2013. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Jimmy, how could you say that's your favorite thing? Right? But the reason I say that is because, like, you know, like once I thought about it, it's like all the great things that Xbox has done, you know, releasing Game Pass, coming out with the adaptive controller, you know, adding so much value and consumer friendly, consumer friendly practices, you know, to the Xbox brand. I don't know if they would have done that if they weren't the underdog, right? If they didn't come into this generation, you know, not selling as many consoles as PlayStation, being outsold by quite a big margin. And I think because of that, you know, that event, it caused Xbox to be more innovative, and it caused them to look for more strategies of how they could break into the market more and how to evolve the company. And, you know, that's just the way I've always kind of viewed it as, you know, if that didn't happen, all these amazing things that Xbox has been coming out with may have also not happened, you know, right, in response to that. I don't know how true that is. Maybe Mike can tell us, but because I don't know how long Game Pass was in the works, or if that was just, you know, created to, you know, as a tool to you know, increase, you know, Xbox's I guess marketing and to try to break out of, you know, being, I guess, the underdog of that generation. So it sounds really weird, but I guess that's probably my favorite moment, just because of the aftermath. Like, it was devastating whenever it happened, but seeing how the company has came from that moment, that very critical moment, and, you know, in Xbox's history, you know, I think that that's probably the main reason why it's my favorite.
Steel sharpen steel. That's what you're trying to say. That's what you're trying to say, brother.
Well, you know what? I want to bring, you know, obviously, I think that most people in the chat that know me, I'm very transparent person. I think that's how you have to be. And some people may say, well, it's gonna definitely be boom, you know, going to E3 for the first time, you know, being a gamer since '78. Actually, that's not it. I'm going to tell you a funny story. There was a place, if you're from New York, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Let's talk about it.
It was called Dragon's Den. It was in Yonkers. And it was run by a guy, a very shady kind of a dude called Gary. His name is Gary. Now, if you know who I'm talking about, and I'm sure there's people in the chat like, yeah, I remember that guy, Gary. He was a bit of a criminal, but he just beat you over the head with his prices. That's what I meant. That wasn't a real criminal, because then why would I be shopping there if I eventually became a cop, right? So he used to go to E3 because he had a business, and he would get in there. And obviously, back in the days, it used to be a retail focused event, and he would come back, and man, he would clobber the clientele, because his E3 tapes were $25.
Oh yeah.
And back in the days, me and my brother, you know, we worked for Funko Land before it was GameStop, right? Funko Land back in the days in Yonkers on Central Avenue. Yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of money. And we put our money together, and we wind up getting this bootleg, over the shoulder, you know, a tape that looked like it was made in someone's basement, and probably was. But the first reveal of Metal Gear Solid, where Meryl and Snake are back to back firing their guns, my brother and I'm not even kidding, Dan, if you're listening, if Neo Mental is listening, he knows what I'm talking about. We played that tape so much, we wore it out. That was for me one
Salute.
of the and the second one. This is more. I can't get in trouble for saying this because I don't work for the NYPD anymore. I retired, but I made it my business to come in on meal, and meal for us is what you would call lunch. It's just called meal for the for the police officer. And I wind up staying past meal at least by 45 minutes. I was listening to the radio, make sure they weren't calling me. And it was during the E3 2013 Microsoft event. And there was a guy from the Midnights that was there on a case, and he was sleeping. And I was sitting there. I was downstairs in the senior locker room because we had to keep ourselves separate from the rookies. That's the way it works. You know what I'm saying? But
Talk about it.
when they announced Killer Instinct, I, with all of my equipment, which was 35 plus pounds, jumped out of my chair, nearly hit the thing, and I scared the guy so much he fell out of his chair because they announced Killer Instinct, one of my favorite fighting games of all time. I'm hoping that we get a proper Killer Instinct 2. But I got to tell you guys, this was a great topic. This one went a little longer than I thought, but again, obviously this is what we're supposed to be doing for the 2 hours. Mike, how much time do you have?
About till 6:30, about 15 minutes.
Okay, excellent. So let's move on to the next topic. And you know what? I kind of want to bring this back around to E3, but in a different way. Microsoft is obviously in an upswing. Phil Spencer and the team, and of course, Mike, that was you, part of this team up until just recently, have positioned the Microsoft brand in a way that I don't think any of us saw it coming. We all hoped it would happen. We all were, rooting for Microsoft to be the comeback kids of the industry. But my goodness, if you look back to post E3 2018, the amount of goodwill and positive branding that Microsoft has been doing, it's unbelievable. It literally is. And of course, we have to look back to, of course, the VGAs, right? No one saw Phil coming out on stage and announcing the Xbox Series X, giving us a full shot of the console, a full shot of the controller, giving us the name, and then he followed that with Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, and obviously Mindshare, as we know, and we're not businessmen, right? Well, I know Mike's a businessman, but we're all just gamers. And, Mindshare is 1/10 of the law when it comes to, of course, getting your brand out there. And Microsoft has it in spades right now. And obviously, we know some big things are coming. We know that there's going to be some sort of a fan fest digital event where they're going to be giving a bunch of prizes. But the digital Xbox event, man, the way Phil is talking, the way he's out there strutting and stuff, I think it's going to be big. Mike, I just want to ask you, how big should the Xbox, the millions of fans think and hope that this digital event that they're going to do is going to be?
Well, I would say that I feel like Xbox is in a perfect position right now, and they should double down and be as aggressive as they possibly can in serving their fans, because the fans, the gamers seem incredibly excited. They seem incredibly proud. And that means doing a digital event that blows people away. Like, you know what? You want something where the fans at the end say, that was freaking better than E3. It was better than being at E3. Like, they have to constantly be raising that bar of expectations and exceeding it in order to really kick off this next generation battle in the way that I believe they have to. And so I would say their goal should be, how do we make, people like Dizzy, people like on this podcast, how do we make them say that was better than E3? That would be the goal.
Absolutely.
I mean, so my question to you, because I know we only have a few more minutes, I kind of want to get the most Mike Ibarra I can. I got to be honest with you, Mike. I want to thank you again for being here, dude. It's been a real, absolute honor to have you on tonight's show. My goodness, thank you so much. My question to you is, you say aggressive, and I agree with you 100%. I think that I would just let it all hang out, only because right now, and again, I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. This is a show about positivity and family bonding with IDizzy, but I have to say it. right now, not taking anything away from what Sony has done, because they've done amazing. And they have great games. Neo 2 just came out. We know that we're getting The Last of Us 2, which is going to be a 10 out of 10 more than likely. We got Ghost of Tsushima coming out. I mean, it's a great time to be a PlayStation fan. You got Final Fantasy 7 in April. It's just unbelievable. But in my opinion, and this is not being a console war nonsense, they kind of have Sony on the ropes, because Sony is struggling with the pricing. And right now, they're just not saying anything. Their fans are desperate. And I'm one of them, because I own everything. We want information. The aggressiveness, if you were still at Microsoft, how aggressive would exactly you be?
Well, I would say, I don't know anything about what Sony's plans are.
Right.
My information on Xbox's plan is old. Is 4 or 5 months old now.
Right.
I would say they've got to be incredibly aggressive, because you can't count Sony. And by the way, there's still someone called Nintendo in this game.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Sony's ability to push out 90 plus rated games over and over and over again was in my opinion, the best run by any publisher that I have ever seen. And
yes.
I don't see it slowing. So there's no counting out. If anything, keep the hunger and don't think you have the lead. That's how aggressive you have to be, because you don't have the lead. And let's go. Let's keep that intensity up and high, and don't worry about the competition. Don't worry about what Sony's doing. You've got a strategy. You've got a bet. Serve your players and exceed their expectations, and success will follow.
Well, listen, Mike, I'm gonna let you get out of here, because I know you said that you got to be out of here by 6:30, of course, which is LA time or California time. And once again, this has been a real treat to have you on. Honestly, dude, I've always wanted to meet you, and I've heard you on Dealer's show, and to have you on this little show is just epic, man. Thank you so much.
You bet. Thanks for having me, Dizzy. I love you. Take care, dude. Happy to come on. Just give me a tweet again, and we can just talk gaming in general sometime in the future.
If you don't mind, I'll DM you, and we'll talk privately.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate it.
Later, Mike, man. Have a good one.
Well, once again, the great and awesome Mike Ibarra took some time to be here. And man, this has been an epic. The amount, again, I just I'm going to get to everybody in a second, but I just have to just basically say this. The amount of super chats that have come in for IDizzy and his family are nothing short of heart-stopping. And it is really a testament to when someone in this community needs help and they shoot up the flare, we respond in a way that just transcends console war flags and plastic, and we put everything down. We stop being dicks for a day, and we all come together and we support someone. And I honestly have to say, I am so proud of everybody on this panel and everybody in this chat right now. The 330 people we got watching. It's just been an epic show from start to finish, and the super chats have been unbelievable. And I can assure you that once that money comes in from YouTube, I am going to post it. I'm going to show the numbers, because obviously this is all legit, and we will be donating 100% of all proceeds on this show to IDizzy and his beautiful family. But Lord Cognito, I want to go to you, because you obviously, you're a showrunner, right? And you talk Xbox, and you have King that kind of really talks Xbox, right?
Yes, sir.
For you personally, obviously, we have to, again, I have to keep bringing up the Game Awards 2019, because Cindy Walker, if you don't know who she is, she was an intern who stood up and said to Phil Spencer and company, wait a second, you got to start doing some things differently. And he was a little hesitant, but then thought about it.
Oh,
and
wow.
You know what?
You might want to get that one.
That is okay. That is a $100 super chat from the great Mike Ibarra. He says, later all, thanks for being here. #gamers. Dude, thank you so much for that, Mike. Really super appreciate it. But with Cindy doing what she did, she's obviously a part of the marketing team now, because you got to hire that one or put a ring on it, whichever.
Facts.
And obviously she is maybe the spark that the marketing team that I have, and I'll admit this, I've been public and ran to, and everyone on here,
same here,
been critical, and for good reason. Maybe that's the spark they needed. What would you do if you were wearing Phil's shoes for a day and you were planning this event? What would you show the people?
You got to be aggressive. I just kind of double down on what Mike was saying. You still have to be aggressive. You still, right now, to your point, what you say as far as like having Sony on the ropes. I think from a mindshare standpoint, yeah, they do. I mean, we have to admit, the Game Awards was a tremendous moment. I spoke to Red off scenes, and we were talking about things like, this is the kind of stuff we need to see.
Yes.
We all know the story of Last Generations. Zemi painfully reminded us, but it's cool.
Hey, I just try to bring it up at least once every episode.
as your greatest moment. It's cool.
Yeah.
You dug the knife right in, but it's cool. No, shout out to you, Zemi. That was good. But yeah, man. Like at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you have to learn from your mistakes. And the thing we've always said, and going back to the last E3, which I wasn't really a fan of, I've been on record. I came out the conference, the Lords went live, and we were very real. We just felt that wasn't the home run. That wasn't what you need to do to kind of establish yourself. So to see them to see Phil tell that story, listen to that intern, say we have to do something different. That's the kind of stuff I want to see. So I love the aggression. You have to prove to gamers that the Xbox brand is here. And you have to prove there's a reason to want to get this console or just be part of the ecosystem. So I thought that was a fantastic move. No one saw it coming. And shout out to them for keeping the leaks under wraps, because that's another thing that always used to kind of stifle Microsoft. So, to your question, look, they've got the system reveal. We assume, at some point Lockhart will be revealed. We get like a two-prong approach as far as the pricing structure. At this point, once they ever decide to, really give the full specs and the breakdown on the hardware, it's got to be just about the games. You've got to prove
games and more games.
You've got to prove that these studios that you've invested in, right, that they have some talent and some stuff that they're working on that's going to blow gamers away. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Listen, we all love the power. You know what I'm saying? We all love hearing that kind of stuff. We know these next gen systems are going to be capable. SDs, ray tracing, variable rate shading, all that great stuff, that console gamers are going to finally get from the PC community. But at the end of the day, all you got to do is, gamers are not loyal. If you show great games on your platform, people are going to come. It's as simple as that. So you got to continue that mindset. And I love the fact that, again, with the Game Awards, not only did we see the system, but we see the console, we saw, Hellblade 2, we saw an example of the fidelity, the power of something that could be accomplished with that hardware. So they just got to keep that up. And gamers, the stuff that gamers have been asking for. Like I said, beloved franchises, new IPs. If they can
AAA bangers.
AAA bangers, you know what I'm saying? If they can do that, again, to Mike's point, it really doesn't matter. Just they have to show that commitment to games. And if they do that, they'll be okay.
That's a great point. Wilmy, I want to go to you next, Wilmy, because obviously, you're a businessman, right? And you run a very, very serious business. And we talk privately about exactly what that is. So, when you're going to be the best, when you want the people knocking at your door say, we want you, you have to advertise and show the goods that that you have. And I think right now Microsoft has positioned themselves very smartly, I might add, to really let it all hang out, bring down the house, and just completely stagger the competition with the triple and quadruple A titles that we know are in development. How aggressive would you be if you were Phil Spencer planning this event?
I would definitely, like in my situation, the best way to get on top is to stop your competition or make them work for you. And it sounds mean and cruel, but I guess that's kind of what I've done in 20 years. Okay. But I mean, it's the same for gaming. They need to come out strong. They need to come out swinging. Phil Spencer did that during the VGAs. Like I coined on your podcast a couple of weeks ago, that big Xbox penis he slapped on the table.
Meat on the table. That's what we call it. Meat on the table.
Yeah, exactly. Has Cog says I'm getting messy. He came out on the stage. Nobody expected it. That was his first move.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure, man, they've got a lot of things on the burner. They're just waiting to bring out. Sony, they've got a couple of great games coming out. I've got them pre-ordered, Boom, just like you do. The Last of Us 2, Ghost, I've already got that one pre-ordered. But I think Microsoft, I think they've got a few things that they're holding pretty close to their chest right now at the moment, and they're just waiting for the right time. I don't know, and I mean we've all speculated on when Sony's going to release info. Nobody's been correct yet. Yesterday, I heard the PS5 was going to be 21.5 teraflops now. It keeps going up every 24 hours. But I think what's going to end up happening, and with this new marketing team they've got, as the moment that Sony does release info, I think that Microsoft's going to counter. The last few years, it's been working the opposite way. Every time Microsoft would announce something, PlayStation would come out and go, "Oh, well, by the way, we bought Insomnia." I think that's what's going to happen this gen, at least for the next couple of years. They've got a lot of stuff. I mean, they've got 15 studios. There is no telling exactly what all they've got planned. And there's only a very few people that know. And I think they've got the stream coming up next week to talk about xCloud and a few things.
GameStop.
Can't wait for that.
And they still really haven't released anything yet about Lockhart. And I mean, I know a lot. I'm very close with Dealer on RDX.
Shout out to
Dealer saying there's going to be a Lockhart. I'm going to, I've got to agree. I mean, Dealer knows his stuff. So if he's saying there's going to be a Lockhart, there's going to be a Lockhart. We may see some of that next week, maybe. But
maybe.
I think they're going to leak it a little bit each couple of months until they do a big show, and then I just think we're all going to be super excited at the end of the year, man, and can't wait to get our hands on that new console.
Yes, sir.
So I think they're just going to come through, and pretty much I think they're going to counter anything that Sony throws out this year.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. Randall, Thor, I want to go to you because you, my friend, you call a lot of stuff right. I mean, we all get it wrong.
The prophet
you've been on a hot streak on top of winning Final Fantasy VII for your Horizon Zero Dawn prediction. But things are changing.
That wasn't a prediction, though.
Well, yeah, okay. That was.
I people don't want to believe this, but I knew for a long time Horizon was coming to. I said this back in early December on ILP. It's happening. It's only a matter of time. And I told that on the show, I was like, "This isn't a prediction. This is what's happening."
That's right.
And people didn't want to believe it, but whatever.
They hung my man on a cross. Look at them now.
You own yourself Final Fantasy VII for the Xbox. You don't have. I mean, for the PlayStation 4, you don't have to wait. But listen, things are changing at Microsoft, and we saw that in late December of 2019 when they rehired Jared West, who was I guess you can call him the magical wizard of the Xbox 360 era, where we saw a very aggressive Microsoft pretty much rule the roost. And things have been really, it's a different way. It's a different swagger. Because obviously I talk about Sony all the time and how their marketing has been just unbelievable, right? Every time Microsoft would do something, they would do something better. And now it seems the shoe's on the other foot, and Microsoft is kind of, kind of taking the ball and they're running with it. For you as a diehard Xbox fan, for a guy with a man with a million gamer score, how aggressive, because I hear you talk about it all the time on the Xbox 2, which is a fabulous podcast. I look forward to it every week, dude. How aggressive do you believe Phil and company need to be in this new digital event?
I mean, they just need to be aggressive, period, because you need to take advantage of something that your opponent or competition is not doing, and Sony has decided that for them right now, they'd rather not talk about the PlayStation 5, which is fine. They still have Last of Us coming, so Microsoft needs to sell people on Series X and get that momentum going for it and get people to look at Xbox, give it a second chance. Because a lot of gamers, after the debacle that was 2013, which was was Emmy's favorite moment.
Moment.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, they kind of swore off Xbox. Whatever. I'm just gonna go PlayStation. So they need to kind of win those people back. And it's like, hey, the system's just made for gaming. It's gonna play games the best. We've heard you. We know you want games. Here are the games and all that stuff. And they need to get that message out, and I think they need to do it as much as possible. Like, it's been since the VGAs, it's been nothing but, hey, this is Series X's time. Like, you had the info just a couple weeks ago with Series X being 12 teraflops and the smart delivery and all that stuff. So constantly keeps Xbox Series X in the news. And if the PlayStation 5 is not going to be talked about until next month, or who knows, maybe May, or who knows, maybe June. I mean, I don't know when it's going to happen. A lot of these people don't know when it's going to happen because they swore up and down it would happen in February, and it didn't happen. And, they need to say something because, I'll go back to what you kind of said earlier about, Sony being scared. Maybe not scared is the right word, but, hesitant or whatever. Here's the thing. When Sony, and some people don't like this, when Sony speaks, the gaming industry listens. It stopped. Mm-hmm. They put up a logo of the PlayStation 5 that everybody knew what it was going to look like anyways, and it broke Instagram likes. People talked about it. So when they do talk about the PlayStation 5, it is going to be a massive event.
Yeah, sure, I'm sure it is. There's no doubt about it.
On social media. So Microsoft needs to be out there as much as they can talking about their system before Sony is like, all right, here's what we're doing. Here's what Horizon Zero Dawn 2 looks like, and God of War 2 and the system and the specs and all that stuff. And they need to do that. And it seems like they are. So the question is, how many digital events do you do? Do you do one separately for the consoles and then one for the games? Do you do one for
that's what I would do
individually? Do you just do one huge event? And there's so many different ways of doing it. Do you make it an Inside Xbox with Major Nelson?
Oh no!
Do you
don't do that?
Do something different, like maybe a fireside chat with Phil Spencer? You know what I mean?
Yes, I like that. Yes.
So there's so many different ways you could go about it. That I'm sure everybody at Microsoft is hard at work trying to figure out the best strategy. But they need to keep the foot, the gas pedal to the floor.
Yeah.
Next week there's that Xbox Series X and Project X Cloud Next Chapter Gaming GDC stream. There's also, I've been hearing some things that this week there was supposed to be some Xbox.
It was Monday, then it was Wednesday.
But I didn't never know what it was when it was supposed to happen. I heard that it's happening next week now. I do know what the news is, but I'm not going to say.
Right, that's fine. That's fine.
I've been sworn to secrecy. But if it does happen, it'll be pretty interesting. And they just gotta keep doing what they're doing now because it's working, and people are kind of paying attention to what Xbox is doing and what they're saying. What Series X is going to be like, but people, most importantly, they want to know what the games are, right? The console's great, but at the end of the day, I think people really want to know, hey, what's Initiative making? What can we look forward to from them? What is Playground's RPG studio working on? What is Obsidian's next project after Grounded? What does Halo Infinite's gameplay look like? And when is that going to launch, right? All the different studios and all the third part, people want more than anything want to know about the games they're going to be playing with their console. So while the console stuff is interesting in itself, it's not the be all end all.
No, it's the games, dude. There's no doubt about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, it's there's so many they have so much opportunity, and it's just just keep at it and just nail it. And hopefully they do. And I think they will.
All right. Well, listen, I agree with you. I listen. Power's great. Power's important. 60 FPS. Whether that be 4K, whether the ray tracing is involved, all of that is super important. But at the end of the day, you got to play your games, and their first party has been their Achilles heel. And it seems as if they got that under control. They have 15 studios. It could be more for all we know. They could have other ones that haven't made an announcement yet. But it's going to be interesting. Now, Zemi Games, why don't you close out this amazing Xbox topic for, of course, the Xbox Factor podcast? If you were wearing the pants of Phil Spencer and you were at that boardroom saying, this is what we're going to do, what aggressive behavior would you show?
I mean, if I was put in that situation, I would probably definitely keep doing what is currently working, right? Keep doing the same exact thing. I think one very important thing that they are doing is that they're remaining the leader, not necessarily like the leader in I guess like the position of, you know, which console is going to be better than the other, but more or less the leader of they're putting out information before Sony does. And then if Sony does put out information, they put it, you know, then they put more out right after they do, right? And I think that that's important because, I mean, obviously they need to keep the mind share. Sony is still a hugely successful company, and they have a lot of very devout fans. So Xbox still has to work just the way that they have these last few months, these last few years, and to trying to convince some of these people from going over to from PlayStation to Xbox. And then, you know, we've seen Xbox here in the last few months release quite a lot of, you know, information that, you know, would have previously been like an E3 announcement, you know, whenever that Ninja Theory trailer came out, whenever they, you know, released the actual look of the console, like that type of stuff would be coming out to, you know, during E3. So, I mean, that just kind of proves that they have a ton of different announcements. And I think organizing those announcements, whether they be the smaller ones versus the larger ones, I think that's going to be really important. You know, the specific, I guess, pattern in which they release this information. You know what I mean? To space out the really, really large, exciting, you know, announcements with some of the less, I guess, exciting ones. You know what I mean? And like you guys were saying, I mean, I completely agree. You know, Xbox, their biggest weakness this entire generation was their first party games. And I think that that's going to be a huge factor for people looking to buy a console, you know, this holiday season, is what games can they play on Xbox that they can't play on PlayStation or vice versa. So I think releasing as much information about what games they're working on and who's making them and what these are and all this different stuff, I think that that's going to drive a lot of traffic to them. But I think ultimately they just need to continue doing the same exact thing that they're doing because it's definitely working for them.
I mean, that's a great point. And this was a great topic. This was a fantastic discussion. Now, we have about maybe 20 minutes. And I know, Cognito, you got to go towards the end. So I kind of want to bring up the smaller of the topics. And this has made news the last couple of days. Now, obviously, GameStop, I talk about it a lot. You know what I'm saying? I still shop at GameStop. I know that people are like, oh my God, Boom, how could you? But I like the points. I get a lot of them. I like getting my $25 gift cards for free. You know, I don't really trade in anything as much as I used to, but I like buying my collector's edition ultra cheap, which I've done. And I have actually made a lot of people in the community, like Pyromancer. I'm not sure if you're in the chat listening. He goes on the hunt now, thanks to my tutelage, if you will. But former Nintendo of America president, good old Reggie Fils-Aimé, is joining GameStop's board of directors. And considering how the corporation has been in a downward spiral the last couple of years, this could be the potential shot in the arm that the company has needed. Now, look, I'm going to say this. As a customer, I still look to GameStop for all of my gaming purchases for many reasons that heavily include the human element. Now, my particular GameStop, I have the cell phone numbers of the employees, and we are actually friends. Now, we don't hang out on a daily basis because they're much younger than I am, and obviously I'm the old dog in the room. But they keep me up to date. And obviously, we have to look to one of the community's finest in Gaming Forte. He actually is a manager of GameStop. And, obviously, people are going to be hounding him, to get that information on when the reserves are, because, there's going to be a shortage. So you got to get in there, and we're going to know that thanks to him. He's going to be very popular in a couple of months. But you know, for me, and I'm just saying this is for me, folks, GameStop has been compared to the Toys R Us of gaming. And we have to look back to the devastation that was when Toys R Us went out of business in 2017. I think it was 2017. Let me see. I got my show notes in front of me. Oh no, okay, yeah, here it is. Yeah, it was. It was the closure of Toys R Us branded toy stores was September 18th, 2017. And it was indeed a very sad day. Millions of children around the globe lost their ability to experience this wonderland of toys with their parents. You got to understand how important that is. My nephew was devastated by this because there was a that trip. He did good in school. Even my partner, my ex-partner from the NYPD, I watch her son all the time. I'm like the big fun uncle, and whenever he did good in school, I would take him to Toys R Us and we'd kind of hang out there for an hour or two, sometimes even 3, just looking at the toys and having moments. That's gone now. Yeah, sure, they're coming back in small spurts. But I feel that if GameStop ever really went out of business, man, it would be a sad day indeed. Now, I'm going to go to Lord Cognito because obviously I'm almost positive this is going to be a topic on the Iron Lords podcast coming up this Sunday. Reggie is a good dude, but besides being a good dude, he is a phenomenal businessman when I tell you. Because, look, the Wii was unbelievable. Sold ridiculous numbers. The Wii U, not so much. And he brought the company from the brink of possibly being just a third party like Sega, right? Remember there was rumors for that for a while. And the Switch is his baby. Now he's gone on to brighter and bigger pastures. Do you think that Reggie can bring to the GameStop Corporation what he did for Nintendo?
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting, man. I mean, I was definitely surprised by the news. When I first saw it come across my timeline, I'm like, oh, all right, interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like Reggie's, jumping in the whole retail game. Obviously, we know the struggles of GameStop. I feel it's really been hit hard, especially the digital era. The whole physical games thing to me seems to have lost its weight. For me personally, I still go to GameStop just for consoles now, but that is like stark comparison to maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when GameStop was the thing. Like you went there for all your releases, you went there for midnight releases. So I just feel like it's been a combination of them losing their direction. And again, I do think the digital era does play a huge factor because, again, it's cool as a gamer to bond and be on those midnight lines for those releases and stuff. But when you're in the comfort of your own home and you just press, preload, install, I don't think they necessarily recovered from that aspect. And then obviously some other changes behind the scenes. So, his statement seemed really interesting. He seemed very positive. He seemed that he feels that, the industry needs a healthy and vibrant GameStop. I believe it was one of his quotes. And then, like you said, Boom, I mean, it basically comes down to, look, at the end of the day, I think the move is positive regardless for GameStop because you want someone with Reggie's level of experience, especially in retail, his connections with Nintendo. And then obviously we've seen, like you said beautifully, as far as bringing the Nintendo out of the dregs from the the Wii U.
They were on the brink,
right? And to be honest, I'm a Sega kid, so I have
you cheered this on a little bit. I know you did.
I was laughing. I was laughing. I was snickering as my inner Sega fanboy was snickering. But at the end of the day, look at me now. Like I am the biggest Switch supporter because I felt finally they grew up a little bit. They changed with the times. They started having more mature games. They started embracing third parties. I'm one of the few people that yes, Nintendo's first party is good, but I never necessarily like enamored with all of their first party. You know what I'm saying? So I like to have those mature, those third parties, those indie games that seem to be thriving on the Switch. So it'll be cool. You see, he's on the board of directors. He's going to have a huge influence. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how much he's able to steer and maybe get them to turn things around and how much their direction will change. You know what I'm saying? And one thing I'll say as a joke, Nintendo games tend to always retain their value at GameStop. I remember that always going there, like getting used games there from Nintendo's interesting. I'll be interested to see.
No, I've done some trades. You know, you bring three. Let's not put it this way: if you were someone that was maybe struggling, your new console's coming out, and you bring in 4 games, that's like $140. You know what I'm saying? And you know that's for 4 games. Now you try and bring in 4 Xbox games or 4 PS4 games, you get a kick in the butt and a quarter.
Exactly. So it would be interesting to see if maybe, again, I'm just speculating. I know nothing. You know, if they pivot, you know, to be a little bit even more Nintendo friendly, you know what I'm saying, as far as, you know, the focus, because again, Nintendo still does well with the, you know, with physical sales. If you look at NPD right now, you know, and I say this to the Lords because I'll be riding for Switch Gang.
I know you do.
What's
you got King at your heels, though.
Oh, yeah, coming in hot. That's my saying. Switch Gang coming in hot. So it's like the thing that's most impressive to me is you look at NPD and a lot of their games are either winning NPD top 3, top 4, but people forget. It's to me, it's like almost a one hand behind the back. They're not counting digital sales. That is super impressive, that just the physical sales alone. So it means that they are really selling beyond that. You know what I mean? It's really impressive. So, you know, salute to Reggie. Let's see what happens in this next chapter for him. You know, you're pulling for him, and, you know, we'll see what happens with GameStop. But yeah, it was an interesting move to see on my timeline, I must admit.
Yeah, well, real quick, I just have to thank, I know I missed a lot of people, but Mrs. Rivera drops another monster $20 super chat. And she says this: I don't know you, Dizzy, but I can tell from the love and support from this community that you are an amazing person. Love, strength, and prayers to you and your family. Good night to all you awesome people. XOXO from Mrs. Boomstick. Thank you so much, honey. Really appreciate that. And let me get to Wilmy Hood. Wilmy, you know, obviously now Cognito, I know you got to get on out of here, so we'll give you a proper outro when you know, once we're closing down and everything. So thank you so much for being here, dude. Super appreciate it. We'll be talking tomorrow.
No worries, brother. Thank you for doing this. Was awesome. Dizzy, I love you, brother. This was dope. Rand, Zemi, Wilmy, Boom, this community, man. This is why I love gaming. And this, what we did tonight, was super special. Shout out to Mikey Ibarra. Love you guys, everybody. God bless.
Thank you so much, dude. Really appreciate that. And Wilmy, let's get to you. You know, obviously, GameStop has had some trouble, and it's the industry. Yeah, I mean, well, it's a little trouble. You know, obviously, I think Brap from our good friend Enrique from the Basement Radio Arcade podcast says that GameStop is basically, their issue is that the industry is working against them. And to some extent, he is absolutely right, because obviously digital is becoming more, and every year you see the turnover getting more and more. But you know what? GameStop still has some gas left in the tank, and I think that maybe the new gas attendant in Reggie Fils-Aimé could actually give them a full tank. What are your thoughts on what he can do? Because obviously we saw him bring back Nintendo. Can he do it for GameStop?
I don't know. Nintendo's been such a staple, man. I mean, if you remember, that was one of the first real consoles we had as kids. You know, we had Atari and everything, but the original Nintendo was a game changer. I think the reason he went, because now all of that amazing Nintendo stuff he's got, he could probably trade it in now for like $20. But I think they're just, I don't know, man. There's too many people going digital. And if you go to the GameStops in my area, and, you know, like 5 years ago, we probably had 18 stores in my city.
Right.
They're down to maybe 8.
Wow.
And a really good close friend of mine is the district manager, or regional manager, and he oversees all these stores. And every time I see him, he's like, well, we're not going out of business this week. But I don't know, man. He's not even thinking very much of it. Just a couple of months ago, the company behind Staples was going to buy GameStop.
Holy cow.
They backed out. I don't know, man. They have such a turnover rate. They're really shitty to their employees. Even my friend to tell you, the way they treat employees, man, is just not good.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a lot of friends that have worked there. My son actually worked there briefly while he was in college, because that was his dream as a kid. And, you know, my buddy Eric's like, yeah, you know, have him come in, fill out the application. We'll use him. my son was there for like 2 weeks. He's like, Dad, screw this shit. I can't work there. But I mean, I just think they may be too far gone, man. It's going to be one of those nostalgia things. They're good right now. If you want a pop or some type of weird, collectible, that's really all that's in the stores near me. They don't really have many games anymore or any controllers. I went in to buy a headset a couple of weeks ago, and the girl behind the counter looked at me like I was crazy. She's like, a headset for what? I'm like, an Xbox. She goes, do we have those? I'm like, well, I don't know. You're GameStop. You tell me.
Wow.
But I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe some stores in different locations are better than what I'm seeing. But here, I mean, it's not looking good. Maybe he can turn it around, but I mean, I don't think he's going to have the same success he had with Nintendo. I really don't.
I mean, it's certainly going to be an uphill battle, no doubt about that. Randall, Thor, obviously you yourself, you're digital, right? You have a monster PC. You probably have ridiculous hard drive space because you have over 1,000 games, and you're almost all digital. I don't know if you even buy anything physical anymore. Obviously, GameStop's they're kind of like a dying breed, but they did hire Reggie for a reason. And Reggie has done some incredible things. Do you think it's a little too late for Reggie to, I guess, sprinkle his Nintendo magic onto this aging dinosaur known as GameStop?
GameStop's basically Blockbuster at this point.
Oh boy,
it's only a matter of time.
Great point.
Okay, I don't feel so bad anymore. Okay.
I mean, Reggie's a cool dude. But, I mean, a lot of people don't know. I mean, he didn't really make a lot of decisions at Nintendo of America, as Nintendo's mostly run from Japan.
Yeah,
right?
It is. That's true. Yes.
He's more of a PR guy. I mean, he's a great, guy to, like, give announcements to and stuff, like the way he presents information. But, I mean, if you just look at their stock, you look at how... Sure, this will be an okay year for GameStop because there's new consoles coming. However, people will keep on transitioning more and more to digital. And then you have streaming coming on top of that. xCloud, Stadia. I'm assuming Sony is going to have some form of streaming to mobile phones and devices and things of that nature. So it's just kind of, when you give humans a choice between physical ownership and convenience, I think it's proven in the entertainment sector that everybody chooses convenience.
Of course. Yeah.
I'm in my late 30s. Not as old as you,
Oh, thanks, dude. Appreciate it.
But I remember not that long ago when a Friday night was heading over to Blockbuster sometimes to run a movie,
yes,
a DVD or a VHS, and going there and being like, oh man, like the movie you wanted to watch was out, right? That was a Friday night or a Saturday night. And now there are no Blockbusters.
Nope.
You can basically, from the comfort of your own home, stream any TV show that you want to watch. Or if you have Comcast, like an Xfinity, like I do, basically you can rent any movie you want straight from them. You don't have to do anything. And then of course there's the music. Everybody's like, CDs, they ain't going anywhere. And then iTunes came along, completely changed the model. People were like, why do I want to spend $15 for an album when I only like a couple songs and I'm going to pay $1 for a song?
Yeah,
and then Spotify came along and was like, you know what? You can have all the songs. All you got to do is pay a subscription fee, right? And that's what it changed to. And same thing. Now, the only question for gaming, because people were like, no way digital's going to take off, was that gaming's a little bit more expensive than renting movies, buying movies, and buying music. Games are $60. But clearly the convenience factor of not having to go to Amazon or not having to go to GameStop or Best Buy, having it already day one, like, hey, it launched
at midnight at least.
Yeah, it's already there. Yeah. It just got more convenient. The sales started becoming a lot better where you can get games for really cheap. Game Pass started to become a thing. So everything's just moving to digital. GameStop's sitting there, and their whole business model is, based off of selling old games, and they're selling less and less physical games. There's less and less used games to sell. They got to cut back on stores. Like Wilmy said, he had so many GameStops around him. I live in a suburb of Chicago. There were so many, and now I think there's like 4 or 5. I think there was like 15 at one point within like a 10-mile drive of my house in any direction. And now there's like 5 of them. Right?
Wow.
And I haven't bought a physical game since Titanfall 1. Was
Holy
my last
cow,
physical game I
dude.
bought.
Wow.
Everything else has been,
2014.
everything else is digital.
Wow.
So I think it's only a matter of time. I give them a couple years after the new consoles launch, and they'll be completely gone because people are just going to keep on moving to digital, and they won't. It's like Blockbuster. It's like they just couldn't afford to keep the stores open, and they just had to close down. I think there's one Blockbuster still left open somewhere in like Washington or something like that, but. Yeah, it's all but over for
I
them.
won't say it's in Minnesota or Missouri.
Somewhere,
I
but
think
yeah,
I think it might be in Oregon. I'm not sure. I know
That's
that there
funny
was in
there's
Alaska.
even
but
one
no.
still around. Yeah, well, I mean, great, really great points, Rand. And obviously, let's close out this amazing show, which saw the community come together for our brother, IDizzy81. Zemi Games, obviously Reggie has a good history. He did great things with Nintendo. Obviously, they believe that he can do something to save GameStop. A lot of people on this panel don't believe it's possible with the way that gaming is going almost digital, for and it's increasing every year. For you personally, what do you think that Reggie brings to the table, and can GameStop be saved?
I'm not 110% sure what Reggie does bring to the table because I don't really follow him. I'm not really that big of a Nintendo guy. That's just not for me. So I don't really know what he could bring to the table. But to answer the question of whether or not GameStop's a goner or not, we're coming very, very close. I think GameStop is from the point of like no return. You know what I mean? I think that they still have a few more years in them going on their current track, and then they really won't have anything to do but close down more stores until they're just completely out, right? But I think what they need to do, and I think that they do have a chance, and I know that Rand mentioned Blockbuster, and one really good thing about Blockbuster is they had the opportunity to not go out of business if they bought Netflix, but they chose not to. And because of that decision, they then went out of business. And so GameStop right now has an opportunity to change their entire business. And that's, I think, what they would have to do if they wanted to continue. GameStop has 2 really bad things going for them, right? Digital sales keep increasing every single year. And so their main bread and butter, was always selling used games, right? That's not really as profitable as it used to be. They've tried multiple things. They're now, doing merchandise, and merchandise is great, but I don't think it's going to be sustainable enough for the future for them to continue to operate 5,700 stores, right?
Yes.
And they've tried a bunch of other things that are very similar to what they did before. So I think that they need to break that barrier. And I think that they need to, honestly, I think if they went maybe like an all digital approach, close down a lot of their stores, a lot of their brick and mortar stores, and open up a online, and put all their efforts towards their online business, or maybe just reduce down their stores by a significant margin, and then really focus in on online, selling digital game codes online, selling gaming merchandise, peripherals like headsets and controllers and consoles and all that different stuff. But I think another thing that really goes against GameStop is they do not, in the last few years, they really have not had the best consumer practices, and regardless of how, some people may feel about it or whatever, maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. If you go to YouTube right now, it is extremely hard to find one video that's a positive video about GameStop. Right?
No, it is the truth. Yeah, you're right about that, dude.
So in regards of changing their entire business strategy to more adapt to how the market currently is and what consumers are actually looking for. In addition to that, I think that they would also have to maybe make or redo their rewards program to add a tremendous amount of value into their company. look at Xbox, for instance. A huge reason why Game Pass is so successful and so many Xbox fans are screaming from the roof in excitement is because the tremendous amount of value that this company gives them as a gamer. And I think if GameStop can find something similar to that with maybe an upgraded reward system or whatever it may be, I think that they may be able to win the hearts of gamers back, because there are a lot of people that really, really don't like going into GameStop because they don't want to be, they don't want to be asked every single time 1,000 times if they want to pre-order this game or that game and all these, all the different things that they've done, right? So I don't think it's too late for GameStop. I think that they still have the opportunity to turn their business around. I don't think that they've crossed that threshold of not being able to come back. But if they continue on the track that they're currently on, they're not going to be in business for very much longer. They need to radically shift their company's ideology and better situate them for gaming in 2020 instead of gaming in 1995.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, really fantastic points, not only from you, from everybody on the panel. And as we're going to close out tonight's show, I first again have to reiterate the fact that what this community has done tonight is something that I think we're all going to remember as human beings. I think the rallying of the community around IDizzy and his family is not only memorable, but it's an emotional tale, and I'm proud and honored to have been a part of this particular stream. It's just been incredible from start to finish. We got in every topic, and on top of that, we got to get a little personal with everyone and how cancer has touched us. And I want to get to the outros, but I want to get, do the two first gentlemen that left. And we'll start with Mike Ibarra, who, of course, is the executive vice president and general manager, of course, at his favorite company known as Blizzard. Something, it's a dream come true for him. He was, his presence here tonight was mammoth. He is personally the biggest personality I have ever had on this very small but growing YouTube channel. Mike, if you're listening, I honestly cannot thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know that Dizzy himself is floored that you took the time out of your busy day, of course, still reeling from a loss of a family member only but 60 days ago. For you to come on here and share that with us is just it's a monster achievement. So Mike, thank you so much for that. And of course, my brother from another mother, known as Iron Lord Cognito. Now, listen, I talk about the Iron Lords all the time because, quite frankly, they are some of the best in the business and some of the best friends I've ever just made. And it just goes to show you how bit of a small world it was when Cognito and King used to hang out in Grandfather's place in Queens. My brother Dan and I ran into them all the time. We just didn't know who they were until all of these years later. And yes, that was King behind the counter. And who the heck knows it? This is such a small world. So yeah, check out the Iron Lords podcast. Of course, that is Sundays, I believe, when the NFL is out, is at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Of course, check out the lordsofgaming.net. You can go there and get all the hot off the presses information. And of course, you can read Dizzy's incredible story that he wrote himself. And I got to tell you, bring the Kleenex, because my wife and I read it and we were bawling. So I can guarantee you that it's an amazing, it's probably the best thing I've ever read, without a doubt. So I definitely encourage you to check that out. And of course, let's get to our outros. We'll start with Wilmy Hood. Wilmy, thank you so much for taking the time here. Of course, your generosity has shined through once again, but it was really amazing to have you a part of this show. And I'm even more honored that you asked me to do it on my channel. That was really big of you, and I'm glad I could assist. Please tell everyone where, if they want to learn about the Aztecs and whether or not the aliens are involved, and of course you do talk about horror on Sundays every now and again, tell everyone where they can follow you, potentially be blocked by you, and also check out your awesome YouTube channel.
It's Wilmy Hood pretty much everywhere on Twitter, YouTube, Xbox, PlayStation, yes, even Stadia. Steam, Epic Store, You can find me every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern at Gaming Beyond the Box. Me and the Forking crew, we do a podcast. It's mainly for fun, and we try to talk about games and have fun. We don't try to get into the console crap very much. On Sundays, whenever there's actually news, we try to do a horror cast. We'll talk about some of the great movies coming out, like Terrifier 2, if you guys haven't heard of that one yet. But you can pretty much find me anywhere. Just type in Wilmy Hood and you're bound to find me. And boom, thank you for doing this for us. And like I said, man, we just wanted to help out Dizzy, and by the looks of it, we've actually done a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, like I said, I think YouTube's going to have a hard time catching up. We'll talk privately about when those numbers come through, and of course, Dizzy, you're still listening. We will be getting in touch with you as soon as those numbers officially come in. Randall Thor 19, dude, let me tell you something. You have an incredible channel, and as a fan who started out listening to you and actually now has a show that you were on, it's pretty epic for me personally, but you are one of the community's finest. You are always out there doing your thing. Your videos are amazing. And I don't really think that you need my help, because I think you're at like 33,000 subs or even more now, which you deserve it because you do work real hard. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but also check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Boom. This was a great show to be a part of. Talking about, real life issues, cancer, raising money for Dizzy. Usually we just, we talk about Xbox and stuff, but this was much more important than gaming. This was like real life stuff. So I was happy to be a part of it. If you want to check out any of the content I make, Randall Thor 19 on YouTube, Twitter, elsewhere, it's Randall Thor 19. So I'd appreciate it if you check by and see what's going on. If you want to watch some videos, that would be great. But thanks for having me on again, Boom.
Dude, it's great to work with you as always. And of course, man, it was a real pleasure to have you on such an important, show supporting Dizzy. Do greatly appreciate you taking the time to be here. And of course, last and no way least, Zemi, we're going to be doing this again in just a couple of hours on the new episode of Breakfast with Boom. Thank you so much for being a part of this. I really wanted you to be here because you obviously are one of the main cogs that keep the treads rolling on the Xbox Factor Podcast weekly. Tell everyone where they can follow you on social media, but more importantly, check out your outstanding YouTube channel.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate that. And it was just a pleasure being on this podcast. I mean, I'm on it every week, but tonight was a little bit different because it was a charity stream, and we were raising money for an absolutely fantastic cause, and everything was just great. So I'm just super happy to be able to be a small part of that. If you guys want to check me out on YouTube, it is Zimmy Games. I do gaming tutorials, reviews, news, all sorts of gaming content. So definitely check out my YouTube channel there. You can also follow me on Twitter at Zimmy Games. I'm not the most tremendously active person on there, but I try to be. My DMs are always open, so feel free to send me a message. Listening to this podcast, maybe there's something that you agreed with, maybe there's something that you disagreed with. I always love talking back and forth with community members, so feel free to send me a DM if you ever want to. And Boom, this was a fantastic show. Thank you so much, man.
Well, listen, thank you again for being here. And of course, thank you for being a part of the Xbox Factor Podcast Weekly. And again, we're going to close out the show very simply. Dizzy, we love you, my brother. We are with you all the way. And we are going to help you out the best we can. Of course, this was for you. And like I said, I could not have asked for a better turnout. And we, of course, got a late breaking one from Gamer by Choice with the $100 super chat. He says, I want to help. And indeed, you certainly have, my brother. I want to wish everyone a very, very incredible remainder of the week. Have a very safe weekend with your friends and family. And of course, at the end of the day, two things that my pop taught me when I was real small that I love to close out these shows with are very simple thoughts. One, treat others how you want to be treated. And the other thing, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. Take care. Good night. Be safe. And we love you all.